In this video, I have some painful or uncomfortable militia truths. These are things that should be discussed, but aren't. Now, before I begin this off, I'm going to say good job in Gettysburg. From what I heard so far, there was only one incident at Gettysburg where someone came in with a Black Lives Matter shirt. This person was confronted by a large group of people, and reportedly someone came out of this group and started threatening or hitting the person wearing the shirt. My suspicion is that was probably kind of an instigation thing. Someone was trying to get something started for the cameras, for the news footage. Now, there's people going around saying that Antifa never intended to show up in Gettysburg. I think they did, because people were messaging me that they were seeing buses of people showing up in the area within a reasonable commuting distance the night before. These busloads were coming into like colleges and hotels and whatnot, and the people getting off these buses did not look right, did not fit the area. One person told me they were stereotype Antifa, is the way they appeared. I suspected that they sent their recon teams, their scout teams out that morning. They seen how many people were showing up. They heard the talk of what's going on, how many people were showing up, and they told their people, disengage. I fully believe if militia and patriots had not been there, Antifa would have been there, and it would have been like we've seen on TV. They would have been ripping down the statues, burning American flags, yelling death to America, death to Trump, all that garbage. You guys did a good job. You showed up. No one got hurt. And you did a pretty good PR thing for the militia. Now, for those of you that are complaining, yet screaming about we need to recruit more, we need to recruit more, take our little victory here, and it is only a small one. Capitalize on it, bring in more recruits. Show them that's what we're like, and also point out Richmond. Our success in the PR event in Richmond. Show people what the militia is truly like, that we are not the brain-dead, drunk rednecks like the media portrays us. We're not all a bunch of white supremacists. That's how you capitalize on it, people, so get off your butts and do it. Now, first off, the first painful truth we need to discuss. This is something I've mentioned before, Kaz has mentioned, and others. Militias are defensive currently. Yes, the Second Civil War is going on right now. It's currently being fought between Antifa and the police state. I'm not going to say police, the police state. They're fighting their own. Let them. It makes both of them weaker. The militia has not taken to the field. They've tried to instigate us to come to the field more than once. And the reason they're doing that is so they can blame us for what they're doing. They can blame us for the war that they started and they're currently fighting. The time will come when we will join the fight. And as Kaz says, as soon as we do, it's a completely different ball game. The whole tempo of it will change. These little Antifa idiots have no idea what a war is. And when we join the battlefield, they're going to find out what it is in spades. They're going to find it out in ways they didn't think was imaginable. But until that time occurs that we go hot to join this war, we are defensive. Like you've seen in Gettysburg and in Richmond. We do not go out and do the first strikes. We are not going to go out and assassinate known Antifa leaders. We are not going to go out and start gunning down a bunch of kids getting off a damn bus at the site of a announced Antifa protest. Those are offensive actions. We are not going to do those. We are defensive. Right now, we are reactive. The time has not come for us to become proactive, for us to take the fight to them. Now, the next little truth here that people don't want to discuss. Your rank in the military does not transfer over to the militia. It means nothing. Rank and position in the militia is determined in one of two ways. The one that I recommend the most, that I push the most, is based on knowledge and experience. The one that you do still see, unfortunately, in a lot of militias is nepotism. People get promoted because of being friends of the person that's in charge. The person that's in charge gets that way through a popularity contest. Those units that do that, I'm going to tell you right now, when the shooting starts, they're going to be dead, 100% gone within a week of the fighting starting. Because the people that are in charge won't know shit. You want people in charge that know what they're doing and they have the experience. So you know what? You may have been a field grade officer in the military. You may have been a major. You may have been a colonel. You may have been a goddamn general. You come over to the militia, you're a recruit. And you're going to be a recruit, a private, an E1, a boot, until you've proven yourself to the unit. Then you will get promoted. Militia typically has a little probationary period, which is typically around 6 months to a year. And yes, that'll probably continue through the initial stages of the fighting also. During that time, you're not in charge of anything. You're not in charge of anyone but yourself. I have seen in the militia people that were officers in the military reporting to their squad leader who was a private first class or a specialist when they were in the military. So that officer, they're just a recruit. Their rank didn't mean anything. I personally had a militia commander who was a specialist. And I reported to him, and I called him sir because that is the position he held in that unit. He knew what he was doing. My rank that I held when I was in didn't count. That wasn't even a consideration till I was outside of my probationary period. Once my probationary period was done, then I went from being a recruit to being a squad leader. Next one we should cover is food over ammo. I understand some people believe they need to have 10,000 rounds of ammunition. But guess what? If you have 10,000 rounds of ammunition and only a week's worth of food, you're going to be dead in 2 weeks. You need food. Given a choice, do you stock up more on food or ammo? You should stock up more on food. It's better to have that 3 months worth of food than to have that 10,000 rounds of ammo. How much ammo should you have? Ideally, I'd say you should have 3 full combat loads with you. One obviously will be on your gear and in your weapon. The other 2 will be either cached back at your patrol base, or you're going to have 1 combat load's additional loads worth of ammo inside your rucksack with that 3rd load back at your patrol base. You can't carry that whole 10,000 rounds in the field. And you're probably not going to be carting it everywhere you go. That's a lot of weight. Next up, tactical equals unimportant. You don't need the most expensive tactical gear and the latest model of firearms. All you need is what works best for you and will last. I have seen people deck themselves out because they seen some picture of a Navy SEAL or some Special Forces guy in some movie, and they copied that. They got the latest, most expensive shit. They could have got stuff that was cheaper that would have done the same damn thing, but no, they had to go the most expensive because they had to look the coolest. Well, guess what? Having the coolest, most expensive gear does not translate over to you surviving longer on the battlefield. True story on this one, I had one person who would do the tactical thing, came up to me one day at a training event, Pointed to my stuff and he said, this is the difference. Pointed to me, regular Army. Pointed to himself, Special Forces. Pointed to me, regular Army. To himself, Special Forces. My response was, at least I know what the hell I'm doing. And I walked off. People that put all their effort into having the latest, coolest gear, by and large, well over 95%, have nothing to back it up. They don't know how to use that fancy gear. And if any of it breaks down, they don't know how to repair it. Get what works. Get what will work, period. If you can get by with just a basic set of LBE, load-bearing suspenders, a few ammo pouches, and your canteens and that stuff, and an old rucksack, there you go, that's all you need. Take that extra money that you would use on the tactical shit, use it for your expendable supplies, especially your food. Next uncomfortable truth, most will be training as the fight starts. At the start of the war, most won't be fighting, but will be going through a basic type training. This training will be conducted by military and militia veterans, or at least subject matter experts in that area. Operations will be occurring as the fight begins, but for the most part, it will be conducted by, or at least led by, military veterans or militia veterans. Militia veterans would be ones that are considered proficient enough in that particular mission or task to be a part of it or lead that mission. You don't need as much proficiency to be out on an LPOP as you do out doing sniping or doing reconnaissance and surveillance of an enemy outpost as it's being constructed, or putting in an ambush. There's more to an ambush than just laying there pulling the trigger. Last uncomfortable truth, the militia is primarily light infantry. So you know what that means? You need to be in shape. You need to be able to move on your feet for long distances. Probably with some heavy weights on your back. And by and large, we will be light infantry or light engineer. I'm working on trying to build light engineers. Basically, infantry that are trained in engineering tasks for when required. Unlike in a conventional military, most of our logistical support will come from the civilian side. They will be the ones that will be helping us with food and shelter, taking care of wounded and so forth. By and large, everyone that's in the militia, you're an infantryman. First and foremost, you're a rifleman, as they say in the Marine Corps. And there will be few to no vehicles. Just keep in mind, vehicles are bomb magnets. Examples on this, if you want them, Kosovo and Afghanistan. Kosovo, the Serbs would put up dummy positions. They would use telephone poles, put them under camo netting, make it look like it was an artillery piece. NATO would come through, bomb them at nighttime. Well, the next day, the Serbs would come through, reconstruct that artillery piece with a new tree trunk, and NATO would come through and bomb it again, and again, and again, and again. They used to take old tanks, ones that were knocked out, ones they had stripped for parts they couldn't use anymore, put kerosene heaters back inside the engine compartment. NATO would come along and bomb that tank every day. They would then send through their reconnaissance drones the next day. They would see a tank's there. Oh yeah, we took it out because here's the bomb mark over here. But then when the sun came down that night, they'd see that heat source in the engine, which would tell them, holy shit, we didn't take it out. We got to strike it again. So then we'd drop more expensive bombs on that already useless tank. In Afghanistan, when we went in 2001, 2002, we expended a considerable amount of ordnance against stuff that hadn't worked in 20 years. People looked on satellite photos. Oh, there's an aircraft over here. Hey, there's a line of MiG-21s at this airfield. They haven't been off the ground in 20 years. No one was using them. No one was working on them. But then the Air Force would come through, bomb the hangars, bomb those aircraft because they didn't want them getting off the ground. Oh, we found an anti-aircraft vehicle or position over here. No missiles on it. No one's around it. But that launcher's there. Probably hadn't been used in decades. Went through, dropped expensive smart bombs on it to take it out. If you have a vehicle, you have something with an engine on it, they're going to be looking for that. That is a #1 priority. I have been in exercises when I was in the military where I have literally seen an entire battalion, and I'm not joking on this, an entire battalion of field artillery concentrate their fires in one single grid square to take out a single tank. And while that's going on, you had the people that were on the ground calling up, begging for fire support because they came across infantry dug in on a hill. They needed fire support on that position so they could get around it or through it or capture it. But they couldn't get it because the field artillery wanted to take out a single tank. That was during major exercises, and I seen that more than once. When we questioned, I personally went over to people in field artillery and I would ask them this when I was in headquarters and I seen it. I would ask them, why would they use an entire battalion to take out a single tank instead of take out 2 companies worth of infantry dug in on a hill? They said because that tank costs more money. Well, it may cost more money, but how many lives are being lost trying to assault that fortified position? Things to consider. I know for some people, these truths are going to hurt, they're going to sting, and they're going to scream, jump up and down, and complain. But these are painful truths that people do need to realize. These are some of my observations. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, Essayons.